I think there was a lot of momentum coming out of the 2020 like DeFi bull run. I would say it was like that year and everything that happened that like finally got people outside of our very small bubble in crypto to actually understand that like it is financial technology.
Stuff that we were building a couple years ago for decentralization are still super centralized. And think today that we're raising for decentralization, I wonder if they will still be centralized in 1 or 2 or 3 years.
What will be the impact on the Trump presidency from the crypto perspective in Europe?
If BlackRock goes somewhere, then people must also go that same path, for sure.
My co-host for today's podcast, what's his name?
Zach?
Zach? All right, cool. Well, I'm here with Julien and Lucas. Julien from State Capital Group, Rect, organizer of Unstable Summit, and Lucas of Centrifuge. Thanks, guys, for doing this.
Hey, buddy.
Good to see you. Yeah, day 2 of pre-DevCon warm up. Yeah, it's already pretty hot. But yeah. What are the kind of main themes that we're exploring here at Unstable Summit this year?
The main teams?
Yeah.
Cool. We got a Centrifuge, we have Cello, we have as a sponsor or as a
Themes, like sort of like broadly, what are the topics that you guys are interested in exploring?
I think regulations will find big companies launching their own stablecoins, Rollups.
I'd say, I mean, in general, like DeFi is like now really maybe 5 years old at most, right? I think we've gone through like a bit of a period of low interest in it, and I think that's like changing again with all the big companies coming in. What we haven't seen yet is like a big like technological move forward, I guess, except for like some of the cross-chain stuff. Well, maybe like over the last 2 years, you've had a big shift to like off-chain settlement versus on-chain settlements. Yeah. Right. So like like Uniswap X being the most recent one, but like, I mean, kind of like just this idea that like chains are only used as a last resort. Most of the trading is off-chain. I think now I'd say like probably next is like what I want to see is just better like trading models for other products. Actually, like today I spoke to someone that's been like trying to optimize the like AMMs for fixed income products, which like are very different than like crypto tokens. So I think there's stuff like that is going to be relevant. I don't know. Everyone's trying to meme DeFi Renaissance into existence. I don't know. What do you think? We're going to have a...
I don't know, like I think for after the US election, beginning of next year, to be interesting is this new mandate.
Yeah.
And from Trump bring contrasting value to define blockchain, or is just the way that he thought that he could be more in favor of getting elected. I think because the first 4 years of Trump didn't really got anybody to blockchain.
Yeah.
So it's actually bear market and didn't actually change the...
I mean, massive inflation brought value too. Like,
inflation and printing man.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's going to print more money.
It's going to print more money, but also are we going to see, because of deregulation and because of apparently people being more friendly in this new government with crypto, we're going to see like new type of products in any city with action space. It's a good freshman answer. So it's 2025 if going to be a bull run in crypto market.
I mean, I think one thing it could potentially accelerate is like with, perhaps more regulatory clarity or the removal of unclarity that we've had in the last, administration, is fintech and TradFi being more open to building products on tutorials like Revolut, Stablecoin. I think like actors like Revolut that are, fintech actors that are already, I think, like pretty forward thinking. It's obvious for them, maybe less so like the TradFi, more like traditional finance, institutional finance types, but it could like bring in some new level of interest and less reluctancy to deploy. BlackRock, yeah.
Engaging pretty seriously.
Absolutely.
On the markets. But we haven't seen like big startup company like Revolut or we saw Paper launching its own stablecoin, but this didn't go like as a massive success. So having a big startup company 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was Tesla that bought Bitcoin. But apparently in some state in the United States, they're now starting to get into treasury the accumulation of Bitcoins. We see because we're talking about trillions of USD.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it, like in those companies, they take like a couple of years, right, to react. And so, I mean, I think there was a lot of momentum coming out of the 2020 like DeFi bull run. Like I would say it was like that year and everything that happened that like finally got people outside of our very small bubble in crypto to actually understand that like it is financial technology, right? I think like before that, most people had like you talk to a random person in finance and either they didn't have an opinion at all about crypto or they thought Bitcoin is a highly volatile asset. If maybe it's gold, maybe it's not, I can trade it and that's interesting. And I think like in 2020 and then like 21, like more and more people didn't just think about Bitcoin as an asset, but actually like an on-chain lending market is actually very interesting and maybe ultimately better than how we're doing it today. Unfortunately, what happened, right, is like Terra Luna and then maybe even more so like FTX could like put a pretty big damper on a lot of their like bigger companies, financial service providers to actually do that. Like I think now we're like far away from that we're starting to see like it's nice 2 years ago. If
Well, now when you mention crypto, blockchain, people don't get scared. Exactly. I think we passed this phase since it's changing everything. And now it's more like people from traditional companies
I need to learn how to do it. Yeah.
traditional jobs, they actually want to learn how to jump into the wagon, the chain.
So I think like, and I think if you're like timing that with like Trump hopefully passing some pro crypto legislation, or at least like we know that like there won't be a lot of negative stuff coming out. I think, I mean, even not just Trump, but also all the other like Senate races that were like heavily pushed in the direction of electing Chancellor. And yeah, I mean, so I think that like just that together with like this momentum, I do think is going to lead to a pretty big corporate adoption. And I mean, BlackRock also was a huge win for this industry because it's like undisputable that like as a financial service provider, you have to do something in crypto because like BlackRock's doing.
If BlackRock goes somewhere, then people must also go that same path for sure.
Yeah. So when BlackRock goes, everybody follows basically. Yeah.
If you don't follow them, you'll be the guy that is on the same shooting.
Yeah. I actually one thing I wanted to ask you guys, like we're all based in Europe, and you know the crypto sentiment in Europe has been, at least from institutions and politicians, has not been super welcoming, and I wonder if the Trump presidency is going to have an adverse effect on European politicians and leaders, because like the general consensus amongst like EU leaders is that they have some adversity to Trump because he's not establishment. And so I wonder if like Trump going all in sort of crypto and promoting sort of American values of capitalism and free speech, etc., won't have some sort of like a adverse effect where European leaders are taking the adverse stance just out of principle. You know, I wonder if that's something you guys have thought about, or like what will be the impact on the Trump presidency from the crypto perspective in Europe.
I think it's actually a good thing for Europe, the Trump presidency, in terms of monetary policies, governance, and defense, in terms of political actions. So there was a discussion yesterday from the French President Macron that was saying that Trump was elected because he served the Americans. But now we need to think as a nation, or Europeans, how we can actually serve our own nation, our own people. So, and we know the policy of the US will be quite aggressive towards Asia or Europeans. So we need to make sure we can first protect ourselves and also engage in innovations, which for now has been quite slowing down, or we've been focused more on regulations. So if there's some shit show going on in Germany in terms of politics as well. Yeah. So I think in terms of there are two main discussion for the Europeans right now. It's of course monetary policy, so crypto, blockchain, potentially enter that subject. We also have AI, big subject, and then defense. So if we let the US continue driving innovations in Europe, and I think it's different from Asia. In Europe, most of the tools that we're using are all coming from the US. Like can be Twitter, Google, AWS, Amazon. Everything is running by US tools, and we all know that. So I think it's a matter of what are the type of decisions that we want to make happen in order to have sovereignty and self independence from either Asia or US. Yeah. So I think it's a good thing, and we'll see more. Either we embrace this new technology, or we even go deeper into feeling as Europeans. And I think regulatory wise, I don't agree with you. I think we're the first one, like with Mika, and trying to bring some clarity along. Just your thought.
Do you think Mika will actually promote innovation, or I'm reluctant to think that Mika will help European companies really innovate?
I think it doesn't necessarily push for innovation,
In accuracy.
but it brings clarity into what you can do, which I think is better than having no regulation.
I do think like it doesn't lead to someone coming up with the next crazy DGen DeFi product,
Yeah.
but it does help with like any regular financial products and the use of crypto in those. I think, I mean, the problem with it is like the US has the most progressive financial uh
Zach is fully like,
financial mindsets, right? Like if you talk to anyone, like they're the ones that have pushed like finance forward for the last decades. So kind of and then Europe, you don't see that much happening with Mica just because it's and MiFID, like because of I'd say like a generally a more conservative financial system.
I mean, Europe doesn't really have an investment culture mindset. Yeah.
So I think the minute that some of this stuff starts getting traction in US, you'll see like Europeans catching up, right? I think actually the interesting thing is like in fintech, right? Like neobanks are much better in Europe than in the US. Like N26 and Revolut, like compare that to like the sign up process with a popular US bank, like it's night and day. And you see like some like you see actually that is maybe a trend that is moving over to the US. I think if we see like crypto being adopted in the likes of Robinhood, in the likes of like some of those other like very consumer oriented projects, like we'll probably get also more of that happening in Europe. And for that, like Mica is actually good. I agree with you. Now it does create some other hurdles for like the DeFi like decentralized stuff, but for like a lot of the users that like want to work within a regulated framework, it's a decent one, way better than in US, right? In US, everyone's doing these things offshore. Like BlackRock is not doing it in a US product. They're doing it with a BVI product.
the only fear that I have is because US is adopting a non-regulated. I mean, it's going to be easier to start up a company, and they're bringing more clarity to us. Well, people being able to build any type of product will be driven by value over regulations. Then a lot of people that decided to move to Europe to build uh, projects. We've seen this a lot of Americans or even to Europe. They might actually think twice and then or going back to the US, but it's easier to raise capital. And if it's also easy and friendly to establish and run a company, then they might actually go back to the Silicon Valley. And is what we've seen the trend over the past 5 years, especially in crypto, was not most, but there's a massive amount of crypto now, any blockchain family were actually established in those. And in terms of investment, you had a lot of investment coming from Europe, and during the bear market was more investment coming in terms of trend coming from Europe than actually from the US, so Asia.
Okay.
It might change.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting times ahead. I mean, my feeling is like the current sort of establishment parties in France and Germany and the Netherlands and like that block are very traditionalist and even conservative when it comes to sort of like innovation and technology. I mean, just like look at the in France, like the discourse around AI and the discourse around crypto in mainstream media and politics is just like very bearish. Now I agree, like on the entrepreneurial side, it's much different, but there's such like a disconnect between the way people talk about crypto and talk about AI and the reality on the ground of like people building. I think that needs to change in order for like the sea of change to come in, neobanks adopting it, banks adopting it, etc. What else are you excited about this week?
I mean, I think in DeFi, what I'm most curious about to see is like where like what the next wave of DeFi innovation is going to be, right? Like I mentioned, the off-chain settlement is or off-chain like kind of order matching and trading, with on-chain settlement as being like a big thing that happened over the last few years. I think we're seeing a lot of like people trying to build regulated decentralized exchanges, which uh, is actually very cool, because it in theory could prevent something like FTX happening again, um, and that is like good. Like now, of course, like I like using Uniswap, and as long as I can, I will use it. Like a lot of financial institutions will never use it, and so like actually building a regulated, decentralized exchange is like a very a very good thing to do, because you are like you can. I think for me, like I've had this mindset that like everything has to be decentralized, because otherwise, like even the tiniest piece of centralization is just like it's like the software is the entire thing. But I kind of like my thinking shifted here a little bit, because I think if you use decentralization, smart contracts to like create transparency in a system, that is always good. Even if the entire system isn't, like more transparency is helpful. And I think, right, like, so thinking about these like somewhat regulated DeFi projects, it's like, it's still better, right? Than like a centralized alternative. And you can make it better. It's like a lot of work, but, and I think that's like one thing I'm interested in seeing. And you do see like some projects going in that direction. Um,
So what's your take on the DeFi Renaissance then? Is it is
And I'm quite interested in knowing if any rollup or those new blockchain will actually solve any problem. Or
I mean, we need more rollups. You need like more rollups, more L2s,
really,
L3s, L4s.
we need to go like upper levels.
Let's go to the moon with the rollups. See.
Yeah, it's
And we certainly need more EVM rollups, like definitely more.
raise more money, have more tokens, have more meme,
more tokens are always good.
more tokens always. No, the thing is like some all different projects raising a huge amount of capital and having large amount of valuation.
Yes.
But not necessarily processing any on-chain value or making any money. It's interesting, and also the tech behind them. Like it's none of those L2 actually they were built for the sake of decentralization or saying, okay, we'll decentralize and speed up the L1 Ethereum. But I haven't seen any of them that are actually decentralized, and either they have the sequencer or the prover or anything that is super high decentralized, or the bridge. Before it was the bridge, and now it's
Now it's a
sequencer.
And the bridges are still centralized.
Yeah, it's bridge are still centralized. Stuff that we were building a couple years ago for decentralization are still super centralized. And think today that we're raising for decentralization, I wonder if they will still be centralized in 1 or 2 or 3 years. So we always like, and something I was asking myself yesterday is like, I wonder if we're opening the gate for more problems, or we're actually narrowing down the number of problems by opening these gates. Because it looks like today we're talking about sequencer, we're talking about different opponents that we're having in this L2, but maybe you're right. Maybe then it will be L3 and narrative will change into something else that we need to decentralize. So is there any end to decentralization, or can we actually achieve it? That's a good.
So you mentioned like, do we need more tokens? And I don't know if you guys follow this Murad guy who talks about meme coins all the time. He gave a talk at Token 2049 where he says basically like, crypto as an industry is not a tech industry. It's an industry of producing tokens. And at the end of the day, like the token is the product, and that's what people want. Like people want to be able to gamble, and people want to be able, and then you remove the tech away, and you still have the token, and you still have the narrative, and you still have the cultiness of all these things, and that's how you get to meme coins. Like it's a little bit defeatist, I think, to go that far in that idea that the only thing that people want actually is just to be able to gamble on, like new interesting narratives. But at the same time, like the market is kind of telling us that that's what people want. Like there's just like tons of interest and money in meme coins in the same way that there was like tons of interest and money in NFTs last quarter or last cycle. Yeah, what's your take on sort of the balance between utility and kind of token as the product or price as the product?
I mean, as a builder, it's I would say it's quite tough because you might spend years on building tech or spending a lot of energy and resources into something that actually solves further. But at the end of the day, you don't really necessarily have the attention of if you just spend an hour building a meme coin and releasing it and beginning the next formal pill. So I think the market doesn't necessarily reward builders in the sense of it's just a small spectrum. Because what makes people talk is, as you said, like, is the token or the price going up? And if you can build something that's not a real problem, but if the token doesn't go up, people will believe the product is shit. And I think it's quite complicated. And if you make a relation with traditional finance, I think the problem is because here in crypto, we give the narrative of, as you said, the token being more important than the product. But in traditional finance, you will use Google or Amazon or any of those products without actually knowing them. But yeah, on the other side, you might trade the token, the stock on exchange. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have exposure to the tech. But right now, we make a right close connection between the token and the tech. So maybe that's a fine.
Yeah. I mean, you make a good point, right? I think, if you look at the ICO cycle and then the NFT cycle, the products that the token didn't take off are the ones that don't exist anymore. Like everybody forgot, right? So you need the tech, but you also need like people talking about your token and like popping up the price.
But sometimes the most valuable product are the one that in no tech.
Sorry.
Sometimes the most in this space, the most valuable projects are product without tech. The product that people talk the most, but memed coins and having complete zero tech.
Yeah. So where are we at in the cycle right now? Where do you things go from here?
I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of action going into the new year.
And I guess like how important do you think like you're in RWAs like but how much liquidity and you think RWAs like will contribute to this cycle? How much importance is that going to have?
I think. I mean, so far it's very hard to trade RWAs, so like liquidity is still very limited, right? I think that is something that's going to change. But I think and ultimately, bull markets are bearish for RWAs, bear markets are bullish for RWAs, just because relative, like, right, like, actually even now I think yields are, I don't know what they're at today, but like last week they're at like 11%, right? In Aave, for example. So that like immediately like moves money away from traditional financial products and everyone's always gone again. And I think we haven't like, as an industry, matured enough yet where like people don't just start like keep chasing like the highest yielding thing and the next thing. So I think we'll still see quite a big focus on these like very liquid, very new tokens that just like everyone speculates on, and like RWAs will continue like to grow slowly, but it's not like the main thing. In a bull market, in a bear market, right, it's very different. Like we saw that like I don't know if it was a bear market the last few months, but it's definitely like not a lot of demand for
the bear market of the bull markets.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
That's, if you look at the chart, this is exactly this. People say, oh, we are a bear market, but you look, this zoom, and you see actually it's the bottom of the bull.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been like really interesting last year, and I think we've been raising funds as a fund, right? And it's like investor narratives, or like to the feedback that we get from investors is waiting for the election, waiting for the election, waiting for the election, and uh, and I think a lot of people, even in the space, have been like waiting for the elections to figure out what their next move was. Definitely feels like now we're here and everyone's like risk on again. Let's go. Was like LFG.
Parties on.
I mean, we had our leadership meeting the day before the elections, and somehow we got into like a strategy topic, and like 5 minutes into this discussion, are like, actually, you know what? Like, let's just wait a week and not talk about this now, because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. And I do think like it is like, I mean, for a lot of projects, it was like a, yeah, like difference of his stance are gonna regulate, or not even I mean, he's refusing to regulate, right? He was just trying to enforce a lot of this stuff, and that was super unhealthy. Now, like, I feel a lot of people are saying, okay, well, like, I guess it's going to be a more open to innovation kind of environment again. And yeah, I would say very much for us also, you were in some way a bit of in a holding pattern. um I think for larger institutions, it was much more extreme. Like, for them, like a crypto-friendly SEC and crypto-friendly political climate is very important for them to be able to do something. No bank would want to risk doing anything with a DeFi protocol that will like see an enforcement action, right? So that.
Cool. Anything you want to share about Centrifuge or anything you're up to before we grab this up?
I mean, I think right, like over 10 years, like DeFi will look more and more like TradFi, not in how it works, but in kind of the activity, the participants, the assets that have demand. And I think it's very interesting to see, like, we went from this, like DeFi used to be only crypto native assets, where like maybe like you could say this was as if like the entire financial industry in the US was only for AI stocks, right? Like, you'd had trading, lending, like all of this stuff, right? But it was all utility tokens and like stable coins. And I think we're now like starting to really slowly move away from that. It's still gonna take a very long time, but it is like super interesting to see that, like, with now like a couple of billion in like treasury bills on chain, you actually have an asset class that's big enough to have like a traditional asset class that's big enough to get like a lot of traditional trading firms involved. And that is, I think, like the big next unlock for us, is like the market makers, the high frequency trading firms, the like.
Well, also derivatives, derivatives. Yeah, exactly. All the time. I mean, yeah, we're missing the derivatives. What I would like to add is you said DeFi will look more and more CeFi, but I also think that on the spectrum, CeFi will even look even more DeFi than what DeFi will look to CeFi or converging. It's more like CeFi already have the market. I mean, already has the market, already has the billions of users. For example, Twitter, Revolut, Facebook, super app in Asia. So those guys are integrating uh, blockchain and crypto and DeFi. At the end of the day, I'm not sure if retail users or people using those apps will realize that it's actually using blockchain or crypto. But this is what we're moving towards. It's like to a point where when you use internet or WhatsApp, you don't even know it's using for email SMTP protocol or HTTP protocol for surfing the web. This is what we're moving into. At some point, I wonder if there will still be conference like that where we chill the next EIP or protocol update or something, but actually just focus on the product and what is the product doing.
I do hope so, and I'd love to see more products using low key, like using crypto low key. Nobody knows about it, but it's just making our lives better because there's better infrastructure, better censorship resistant, permissionless innovation, and opportunities for growth. So, thanks, guys.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, man.
Cheers.